Posted by you/TasingMamam. I, 33F, am a single mother to a 6-year-old girl. I've raised my daughter all on my own. She was born from a one-night stand with a now former friend, 37M. We never got together, and he refused to be involved in my pregnancy or my daughter's first 4 years of life. I was emotionally stressed because it's a big change, but I never asked for child support or forced him to be involved. I have enough income to send my daughter to private school. I'm perfectly fine on my own. The issue started when he reappeared from wherever he went and decided he wanted visitation. He's not on my daughter's birth certificate, the father is listed as unknown. He wanted to have that amended. I said no, and that if he wants, the best he'll get is to meet her during outings with myself or my daughter's godparents. He agreed, but he's been constantly pressuring for parental rights. The court already gave him a big fat no, unless he pays 4 years of child support, which, with his income, amounts to around $230K USD. He hasn't paid a cent. My daughter doesn't even call him dad or recognize him as her dad. She calls him Mr. I keep things very clean, I never badmouthed him or made up stories. When she asked about her father, I used to say it was just the two of us. Even during court, the assigned CPS agent testified that my daughter had no affection for or clear relationship with her biological father. The main issue happened during a parent-teacher association meeting. He would say things like my family thinks or what is best for my family. I disagreed with him and voiced that my daughter has different needs and those are the priority. He was clearly angry. After the meeting, there was a moment for teachers and parents to mingle and talk about how the kids are doing. One of the teachers approached me to apologize, saying she didn't know that my husband and I didn't like a project she was doing with the kids. I told her I had no husband and that my daughter loved the project and wanted to be part of it. The teacher then told me that my former friend was going around talking as if he's my husband and that he represents the family. I saw red. I walked up to him and very loudly told him we needed to talk in private. In the parking lot, I told him we were not a family and that he either needed to respect that I am the only one who can make decisions about my daughter's education, or he wouldn't be involved. He went on about being her biological father, and I reminded him that he hadn't paid a cent for the pregnancy, my daughter's needs, or even the private school she attends. He hasn't tried to see my daughter since, which she doesn't mind at all, I asked her. I do feel a bit bad about what I said. Am I wrong here? Edit. I wanted to add this because the PMs are driving me insane. He has the money to pay child support, he chose not to pay. He was never prohibited from being involved. He had my phone number, and I sent him pictures and invited him to birthdays and other big celebrations. He never came. We are not in the US. Update 1 week later. I'm going to preface this by saying that my 6-year-old daughter's father, whom I will call Jeff, has never been my romantic partner. We had a one-night stand. I don't like people calling him my ex, as it makes it seem like we had some kind of emotional attachment. He was never involved after I told him I was pregnant and actually wanted me to terminate the pregnancy, but I decided to raise my child alone since I have enough money to do so without child support. For the whole pregnancy and the first 4 years, Jeff was not in the picture. On my mother's recommendation, I did send him pictures and invited him to special events, but he always replied that he had no interest in my daughter. 2 years ago, he reappeared and began demanding parental rights. When I didn't comply with his demands, he sued, but was told no, he was not getting parental rights. He was given the option to pay child support, after which his request for rights could be revisited, but he has refused. He has the money, much more than I do, but he still refuses. I still offered to let him see my daughter in a casual manner, with no child support needed, under the agreement that anything legal, medical, or educational would not involve him. He pushed the boundaries at the PTA, and we had a fallout. After that, we didn't hear from him for almost 6 weeks before he called to meet for Christmas. After much discussion, I agreed to bring my daughter over, on the condition that my daughter's godparents could come. So, we went over for Christmas dinner, only to find out that Jeff is married and had never told his family he had a child. It was great being judged by a bunch of strangers. It was uncomfortable the whole time. I'm going to use fake names, but let's say my daughter's name is Katie. His wife kept calling my daughter Gabrielle, not the actual name she used, but it was that different from my daughter's name. The wife was also very physical, trying to pick up my daughter or parent her. I would block her or politely ask her to let me handle my child. The whole time, she pretty much ignored me, but Katie didn't seem nervous, so I decided to just bide my time. I hit my limit when my daughter said she needed the bathroom, and this stranger went, "Oh, Gabby, you need the potty? Let mommy change you." My daughter hasn't worn diapers in a while, and she's more than capable of going to the bathroom on her own. I immediately told her to stay away from my daughter and that we were leaving. The woman started wailing that I was kidnapping her baby girl and tried to lunge at me. Her in-laws stepped in, holding her back and consoling her, telling her that we weren't leaving and to calm down, as if she were the victim. At that point, I just glared at Jeff and told him he had better explain, or I would call the police. He asked me to speak in private in another room and suggested I leave my daughter with his parents. There was no way that was happening. Katie's godparents took her with them despite the wife having a full meltdown. Jeff and I spoke outside, and he explained that he and his wife had recently lost a daughter. I won't go into specific details, but it was sudden and nobody's fault. As you can imagine, it caused some psychological issues for his wife. Apparently, Jeff had the brilliant idea that having Katie pass as their lost child would help his wife, without telling me. That's why he wanted visitations and parental rights. He pleaded with me to leave my daughter with him for a little bit. I asked him what his plan was for when his wife heals. His response was disgusting. Well, I'll just send Katie back with you, and it will be just like before. I told him he was insane if he thought I would let him use my daughter like that. What his wife needs is therapy with a professional, not someone feeding her delusions. And I made it clear that I would not let that woman anywhere near my daughter. He told me I was being cruel and didn't understand the pain of losing a child. I agreed but reminded Jeff that my priority is not his family, it's my child. What he and his family do to work through their grief has nothing to do with us. I also told him to call his lawyer because I'm making sure he never has contact with my child again. So that's what I'm bracing for. He's been blasting my phone since Christmas, but I can easily ignore him. My daughter and I are going on a small vacation. Edit. This isn't an update, just something I feel needs to be said. My daughter is set for life financially. She has a trust, and I make really good money in my position. If she were 18 right now, I could put her through college without any loans. She doesn't need child support for her quality of life. If I could get child support and never worry about her father trying something, I would sue him in a heartbeat. But after talking to a lawyer and understanding the risks, I've made the decision that child support or potential inheritance is not worth risking my child's safety. Safety is always first. Second update 2 weeks later. Hey everyone, I decided to post one last update, as I'll be going completely silent for a long time. A lot of people were concerned for my daughter and me, and I truly appreciate it. We're both safe. She's currently enjoying a great vacation with her godparents, and I'm making my own arrangements to move forward. My lawyer is working hard to keep everything in order. A cease and desist was his first action, and we're aiming for no contact. He says we have a solid case and hopefully, this will be resolved relatively quickly, though that means a year or two. We did get a temporary restraining order, which lasts until our first court date, but it could be extended after that. I haven't had direct contact with Jeff. He lawyered up as well and tried to send a threat about taking full custody. My lawyer laughed at it, as the reasoning was parental alienation, which doesn't hold up considering I have proof that I tried for years to involve him. Apparently, submitting a few emails showing my efforts was enough to get them to change the parental alienation claim to something else. My lawyer isn't worried at all. After much thought, I've decided that moving is going to be necessary. It won't be something I can do on a whim, but I'll be looking into new houses within the month, with the goal of moving sometime this year. School will remain the same, but we will be speaking to the administration to ensure only certain people are allowed to pick her up. Part of that decision includes hiring a private driver. He's someone I trust completely and who has worked for relatives in the past, so I'm very comfortable with the idea, and so is my daughter. Now I just have to make sure they don't go for fast food every day after school. Honestly, things aren't that scary right now. I have a good lawyer, solid evidence, and my little girl is happy and healthy. I'm just going to focus on handling things little by little. Because of the legal proceedings, I don't expect to be posting any updates anytime soon. And to those sending me PMs calling me horrible for keeping my daughter from her father or telling me I shouldn't have had her in the first place, please kindly direct your thoughts to the void, I'm too busy. Third update 2 months 2 weeks later. I had no intention of making a new post, but today absolutely took the cake. I didn't have to deal with Jeff directly, but instead, he sent a priest to harass me at work. I'm going to be very blunt, I'm completely detached from religion. I'm not an atheist, but I don't really like the idea of the Catholic Church, which is the leading religion in my home country. I respect it, and most of my family is Catholic, so I have a detached respect for church officials. Today, I was doing some paperwork when I got a call about a priest asking for me. I didn't have any meetings scheduled, and we often get visits from clergy asking for donations or participation in events, so I figured that's what it was. I told the secretary to let him in, and at first, everything seemed polite. We shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, and made the usual small talk. Then the priest started talking about how it had come to his attention that I was a single woman with a child and that, apparently, I was living a life of debauchery and hate his words. I was taken aback, but I agreed that I was a single mother, though I didn't see how I was living in debauchery and hate. He then went on to say that he knew my daughter was being prohibited from spending time with her father and accused me of constantly sleeping around with men instead of living a godly life. He expressed concern and suggested that it would be best for my daughter to live with a proper family rather than watch me sell myself. Angry was an understatement. I kept it civil because I was at work, and I had no intention of yelling at a religious man in a professional setting. I calmly told him that my daughter was fine with me, she lived a safe and happy life, my personal affairs were my own, and I had no intention of sending her to another household. I then mentioned that if there was nothing else, he should probably leave, as I had other matters to attend to. That's when he revealed his true intentions, confirming it was Jeff's doing. The priest told me he didn't think my daughter would be happy with me, but that her father was well respected in his church and would raise her as a proper Christian lady. At that, I laughed and simply said, no. I once again recommended he leave, and if he didn't, I would be calling security. He left, saying he would try to speak to me again when I'm not being hysterical. I informed my secretary and security not to let him into my office again and immediately called my lawyer. While I don't have audio, we do have security footage of him entering my office. Thank you again to everyone who sent well wishes on my previous post. We're still working on the move, but school is back in session, and my daughter is loving it. We still have the temporary restraining order against Jeff and his wife, and school officials are fully aware of it. Fourth update 2 months 3 weeks later. Hey Reddit, this update came far earlier than planned, and while I'm happy to announce that my daughter and I are finally free, there's some sad news mixed in. Before I dive into the update, I'll answer a few questions I've received. Did I know Jeff was married? No, he wasn't married when we had our one-night stand. Are you interested in Jeff? No, I'm aromantic, meaning I don't develop romantic feelings. I don't think that mindset is healthy for a long-term partner, so I refuse to date. I was fine with one-night stands until I had my daughter. Why did you send information to Jeff? Because my mother recommended it, and she was absolutely right. If I hadn't, he could have sued me for parental alienation. By trying to get him involved, I've been able to prove that I'm not keeping him away out of spite but because I genuinely believe he's a danger. Why don't you talk more about your daughter's emotions/status? No offense, but I'm only going to share limited information about my 6-year-old. This is the internet, and while most people on Reddit aren't bad, I prefer to protect her privacy. Now, for the update. While our case has yet to be formally reviewed, we were scheduled for September 2025, Jeff's lawyer contacted mine to say they were dropping their demand for parental rights. About 6 weeks ago, Jeff formally agreed to relinquish any claims to rights or responsibilities for my daughter. I know a lot of people might wonder, but what about child support or inheritance? Keep reading, and I'll explain why it's not worth it. My lawyer thoroughly reviewed the documents to ensure it wasn't some kind of legal trap, and he confirmed they were legitimate. Jeff wasn't asking for anything in return, just to drop all claims. I didn't question it further, had the documents signed, and now we're just waiting a few weeks for confirmation that everything is finalized. Since both parties agree, it should move relatively quickly through the courts. If it seems odd that Jeff suddenly gave up, I thought the same. To be honest, I was half tempted to dig around, but I was too busy making arrangements. As some people suggested, I will be moving. I'm not leaving the country, but I plan to move closer to my support system, which includes my daughter's godparents. It turns out there's a property for sale less than 5 minutes away from them. There's no house built yet, so I have a lot to handle, but that's where I plan to make our new home. We also adopted not 1, not 2, but 3 dogs. The cat is probably plotting my demise over it. With all these changes, I have to admit, I didn't have time to snoop. The whole situation ended up coming to me rather than me having to dig. I ran into Jeff's in-laws by coincidence while waiting in a store. I had met them briefly during that chaotic Christmas party last year, but this was the first time we actually talked. Thankfully, my daughter was at school, as the conversation turned heavy. They recognized me and asked if we could talk. I wasn't sure at first, but I decided to be polite and offered to buy them a coffee. They were very kind and not entitled at all. They explained that they were sorry for their daughter's behavior, and that she hadn't been the same since losing her child. For those who guessed she was using her deceased baby's name for my daughter, you were right. They just wanted to clear the air. I told them I didn't blame them personally, but I couldn't forgive their daughter, as she had been a big concern for me. That's when everything hit the fan. The mother started crying, and the father explained that Jeff's wife had passed away, self-inflicted. I felt like absolute crap for the things I had said. I apologized, but they were very gracious and assured me they knew I had no idea. We talked a bit about her and their grandchild, and I found out that what Jeff told me about how his child died was a lie. Now, I don't feel so kind about keeping it quiet. Jeff shook his infant because she was colicky. Colic is when babies cry nonstop for no clear reason. I was furious. I still am. No one should ever shake a baby to the point where they pass away. That's just diabolical in my opinion. Jeff had told me his child died from sudden infant mortality, which is sadly common here, but now I know the truth. They talked about Jeff and how he had sworn up and down that I would agree with his plan to have my daughter pass as their lost grandchild, thinking it would help their daughter heal. I can understand how, in their grief, they weren't thinking straight. Jeff is a charmer, and combined with grief, that leads to bad decisions. There were other things said, but the main point was that they didn't want any resentment from me toward their family or their daughter. I reassured them that I didn't hate them or their daughter and expressed how sorry I was for what they'd been through. They gave me a picture of my daughter's half-sister. She was a very cute baby, and I plan to explain things to my daughter one day. I think it's important that she knows. I also now know where Jeff's wife and her baby are buried. I don't think I'll visit yet, but when things aren't as raw, I'll take my daughter to visit her sister. I called my lawyer afterward to inform him of these new details. He did reprimand me for speaking to the in-laws alone, but he understood the situation. My lawyer is a good friend and tends to be very blunt when I make mistakes. He promised that he's ensuring any remaining legal ties between Jeff and my daughter are fully cut. More things have come to light as well. People were right, Jeff had been lying to everyone, trying to portray himself as a saintly father who was unfairly kept from his one surviving daughter. Unfortunately, in my country, single mothers are often judged as homewreckers or SLTs, so I've had a few bad encounters with people hurling insults and threats at me. Another thing that came up, which happened about 2 weeks before Jeff gave up, he started telling people that he offered to marry me, but I refused and that I was always after his money. Not sure how that makes sense. Thankfully, that lie didn't go far with those who actually know us, since I've always made it clear I'm never getting married. And I definitely don't need his money. I worked my way into a high-income job to care for my mom, and now my daughter. I don't care for excessive luxury. Jeff's wife passed away shortly before he sent the agreement to relinquish all claims to my daughter, which does explain why he gave up. Still, I think he's one of the most horrible human beings alive, an entitled, heartless scum. He felt entitled to my daughter, failed his wife, and unalived an innocent baby. I hope karma is real and gives him everything he deserves. I want to say more, but I don't want to break Reddit's rules. I might update this post if anything else happens, but I truly hope this is the end. I just want to close this chapter and focus on a new start. Up on why Jeff is not in jail. I can't say for sure. You have to understand that I'm going off what the in-laws told me and what I know of Jeff. I'm not a detective, my guess is he either paid his way out or managed to make it look like an accident. As far as everyone I've spoken to who knew about his child, they believed the same story I did, that she died suddenly in her sleep. I don't doubt the in-laws, though. It sounds like something Jeff would do at this point. Up on her country's laws. We're not in the US, first of all. American law doesn't apply here. In this country, a well-placed bribe to the right person can make a lot of things go away. Fifth update 3 months later. Well, it's been 3 months, and it's all good news. To begin with, we're finally free of Jeff. Life is pretty much back to normal. My daughter only asked about Jeff once, when we went to the park where we used to meet him, and it was just to make sure Mr. wasn't there. We also visited her baby sister's grave together. I explained the situation to her as best I could. I don't think she fully understands yet what happened with her half-sister, but we'll go through it little by little. Another big change is that I'm dating someone. And no, I'm still aromantic. My best friend, who had been living in the US, recently came back and asked me out. When I told him I was aromantic, he said there was no pressure for romantic feelings, he just wanted a partner he could trust. While this isn't a traditional relationship, it's really nice. I adore him as a friend, even though I don't have romantic feelings for him. He's met my daughter, but we're taking things slow and won't be moving in together for a long time. Through the grapevine, I heard that Jeff is apparently engaged again. I think it's a very good thing we made that no-contact agreement. If he ever tries anything regarding my daughter, that document will be enough for the court to tell him to back off. Overall, we're happy and safe. I'm grateful for all the support here through the hell that was dealing with Jeff.